And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glasser coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every day, right there at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus, we're the #1 tabletop RPG streamer right there for you at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Plus, also as well, you've got Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and football is right around the corner, so you need your insights into the world of fantasy football. So there's no better place to take care of that than Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Plus, also Game Source, which covers the world of video games each and every day for you right there on Facebook. Plus, also the great folks at Lakerholics.com. Our good friend Joe Soro, who dissed me this weekend in here, well, because he was busy at Evo 22,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about Evo 2022 here in a second, because no, LeBron was not banned per se at Evo 2022, but I'll go into that in a sec. Plus, also as well, LakersBall.com, where Ox1947, aka Joe Soros, hanging out at all the time. Plus, also as well, our good friends at the Hoopheads Podcast Network at hoopheadspod.com. You got to go ahead and check out all the great podcasts relating to the NBA there today at hoopheadspod.com. Plus, if you can go ahead and support all of that, including a subscribe right there below Jamie, or I should say J-A me.
Oh, is that
Yeah, with the capitalized A right there for you.
Yami, man? It's Yami. How you doing, everybody?
Yami Sweet. So right there, if you go ahead and subscribe today, right below Yami Sweet, it is sincerely appreciated.
It's funny that you say that, Joe, because I used to. Quick theater story before we get into the morass that is the Lakers currently. I used to be a part of a small theater company, and I would often direct, do the lights, help build the set. You know, it was very Roger Corman. So I used to avoid the appearance of a Roger Corman-esque production. My lighting designer pseudonym was actually Yami Swoot. So there we go.
There we go, indeed. But yes, it is Yami Sweet. If you can go ahead and subscribe today, you'll get the latest notifications on when we're going live right here at the Lakers Fast Break each and every week, right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast, indeed. But the tension is mounting. I said it before earlier last week. I was concerned and I was nervous. I didn't think it was going to be a done deal, that LeBron was just going to see an extension and then sign an extension. The so-called productive talks that Dave McMenamin reported on, or was told to report on by whichever agency was the Lakers or LeBron's agent, those productive talks are still going on, I'm assuming, because there's been nothing signed. There's been nothing guaranteed. There's no extension I see right now that's been agreed upon. Is that of concern to the team? Is that a concern to the Lakers? I think it should be. But we're just getting started on this episode of Lakers Fast Break, where we'll talk about that, obviously correlating into the team itself. Maybe that's why he hasn't signed the extension, because he doesn't see a team that can compete in the Western Conference. We will talk as well about where, if everything stands as it is right now, the team does stand in the Western Conference. In early projections, we'll talk about which teams the Lakers we think are better right now then, and which teams I think that maybe are better than the Lakers than where they're at in the Western Conference as well. But first, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and let everybody know Evo 2022 here in Las Vegas, which, if you're not familiar with, is the World Fighting Game Championships. Of course, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, all those great games that were showcased there over the course of the weekend, which Jaime Sweet is right now, right there for you. He's going ahead and doing those famous fighting poses for you. But I wanted to go ahead and mention that, no, the clickbait articles on LeBron getting banned at Evo are not correct. Okay, what happened is there's a brand new game from WB Games called Multiverses. It's if you're familiar With Super Smash Brothers, it's very reminiscent of that. It's a free-to-play game. It's an open beta. You can go ahead and check it out right now. It's on all the major platforms right now, as far as PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, PC, Xbox One, all those great consoles and PCs out there for you. You can go ahead and check it out today. It's actually a lot of fun. There's a lot of great characters from the WB land, and one of them is LeBron from Space Jam, who was added on just after the open beta started. So, which is actually weird because it's not even voiced by LeBron. It's actually a voice actor voicing for LeBron in this game. LeBron couldn't even you couldn't even go and get the actual LeBron voice for this game, which is okay. Need I digress on that? But I will say that it kind of irks me when things like that happen. But the fact is, Evo said we are banning the LeBron character as far as for their $100,000 tournament that they held over the course of the weekend, not LeBron himself. So I know there was a lot of articles out there on Yahoo and everything else that were out there that said LeBron banned from Evo. No, it was just the character in a video game that is LeBron from Space Jam. So I just wanted to clarify that out there. Just, yeah. And these clickbait articles, man, I'm telling you, they're getting worse and worse all the time. And there, speaking of which, there was also a clickbait article from Hoops Hype transitioning into that. Wow, man, I just tell you, that was really, really off the chain. Hoops Hype is, to me, a site that I think wants to be a big site, wants to be a site that people can go to on a regular basis, like ESPN, The Athletic, Sporting News, Sports Illustrated, those long-standing, reputable locations. The problem is, in between all the stuff that they put out there that is not correct, or the rumors that they put out there and stuff like that, they put out maybe some good stuff every now and then, but it's so hard to see. But one of the things that they put out over the past few days was a report by one of their reporters that there's a trade discussion in the works, in a three-way trade for the Lakers, for Utah, and for New York. So here today to talk about this and obviously everything else that we discussed that was going to be on the show is a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out his 5 Things articles today at Lakerholics.com. It is John, what does it say? Jaime Sweet?
Yami Swoot.
Yami Swoot. Yami Swoot indeed. It is Jamie Sweet, our Admiral Akbar here at the Lakers Fast Break. Good to have you back, my friend. Your thoughts on this, because, okay, these deals that are being proposed out there, whether it's Laker Tom at Laker Tom on Twitter, who has a crazy one out there himself, but God bless him, he loves the Lakers and he always sides up for the Lakers at least. This one right here that was sent out earlier this week, or supposedly that was talked about and discussed, talked about the Lakers trading out their picks, trading out Russell Westbrook's contract, and sending and getting back Patrick Beverley, Bojan Bogdanovic, or Malik Beasley, and Jordan Clarkson. I mean, these guys are rotational guys, 6 through 9 guys, very solid. But man, if you're trading away your picks, when you're trading away $47 million worth of cap space, and that's all you're getting back, it reminds me of Iron Man when Jeff Bridges had a line that said something to the effect of a box of scraps.
I mean, you're not wrong, Gerald. There's a lot of scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of internet journalism. Everybody's just trying to generate hits. It's the dog days of summer. We're many weeks away from camp.
And I got to call this guy out. It's Michael Soto of Hoops Hype.
I mean, there's there was another one where Skip Bayless, I guess Skip Bayless on ESPN. It's like people don't do research or don't understand how things work, and they just like blather on about. I mean, I listen. I can forgive like people like myself, Tom, fans who aren't really. We didn't go to school for this, right? We're not getting paid for this. At least we're not getting paid cryptocurrency money for the Lakers naming rights. So. You can forgive a little bit of artistic license, shall we say, when it comes to proposing trades or, theorizing or dreaming or fantasizing about trades or whatever. But when people who are on TV or people who are theoretically running, like you're saying, Hoops Hype would love to be on the same level as like Bleacher Report, right? Or other sites of that ilk. And this bunch of hooey and hogwash is not the kind of thing that lends a lot of credence to that notion. So I don't see why a lot of people. I don't see why any of the teams honestly would make that trade. I don't think Utah is looking to bring back Russell Westbrook.
Well, they would actually bring him on in. I think they would be interested because of the fact you bring his cap in.
Sure.
You go ahead and you release him for, he'll sign for the minimum somewhere else. But you've got that $47 million coming off the books at the end of the year. That's what is really attractive. He would probably not stay unless they actually really want to go ahead and tank to the point where, because of his stats. I mean, I know that Kenneth Stone and I were talking about his stats, and I was looking up in detail because he was trying to defend Russell Westbrook. And last year, the only real top 10 statistics that he was making in were turnovers. And also,
he's not a top 10 rebounder for his position. Was not a top 10 assist, definitely not assist to turnover ratio.
He is one of the worst defenders in the league, period, at any position. Over 113 defensive rating. That's horrible.
It's abysmal. Yes. I mean, look, this is the problem. And we've been beating this dead horse for a while now, and so it doesn't even look like a horse anymore. It's now just like a puddle of goo. But the size of Westbrook's deal, sometimes I don't think people quite understand how a buyout works. The money doesn't come off your cap. That money you carry that money on your cap for the rest of the season. It comes off at the end of the year. And whether you want Russ around or not, but you will pay Russ and take the cap hit. So you don't just like waive a guy and magically get $47 million right now. You waive a guy and then you wait until July.
And then,
next summer.
Well, the thing is, though, if he gets bought out and he signs a deal, or he can make a deal where he takes $1.5-2 million, as far as
so now you're paying like 43, 44, 42 mil still.
Exactly.
You're not going to get out of there for less than. He's not going to give you a deal.
Yeah,
this is his last payday. He's despite hiring Jeff Schwartz as his agent, and maybe he saw what John Wall got and was like, look, John Wall got 13 mil, and nobody said he was going to get that. I can get 13 mil somewhere too. But the problem is that everybody's already used their MLEs.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any MLEs left for people to use. The Spurs aren't going to give you 13 mil. Indiana's not going to give you 13 mil. You don't want to play in either of those places anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't understand anybody's logic surrounding this right now. The only logic I see is that Russ is going to be on the team come camp. And Russ is going to be on the team when the camp breaks and the season starts. And Russ is going to be on the team till probably about mid-February.
Well, maybe his contract will be on the team, but I'm beginning to warm up to the idea that he might be actually told go be at home.
There's no way. I don't even.
Yeah. Russ John Wall and Rockets did it.
Yeah, but they wanted to tank.
Okay.
They wanted to tank. They wanted to develop their young core, and they didn't want John Wall soaking up minutes. That's not the case here. We don't have a young core we're trying to develop. LeBron's trying to win, and the Lakers are not going to let a $47 million cap hit double that money, right? Triple that money. That's what Jeannie's not going to let happen. Jeannie is not going to pay Russell Westbrook to not play. She got annoyed when we were paying Jared Dudley not to play, and he was making the veterans minimum. So there's no world. We can go into like the metaverse of Marvel. There's no dimension that Jeannie Buss is paying Russell Westbrook $47 million to sit at home. It's not going to happen. It will never happen. Some other team might be willing to do that. Charlotte, maybe. Indiana, maybe. Frankly, if you're those teams, I'm like, why not just play them? Like, why?
Yeah, but there's such a negative attitude right now going on in regards to Russell Westbrook. If it comes to camp and it becomes kind of toxic, maybe isn't it better that he stays home?
Negative attitude within the team. That's the other kind of like assumed.
We'll know by training camp. I
think we'll know by training camp what the deal is, and we'll know based off of LeBron signing his extension what the deal is. Does LeBron go into the season with that extension just sitting on the table? I think maybe he does, with or without Russ. Mm-hmm. I think that he's just going to take his time. I think the Lakers said, we will not. When I got from productive conversation talks between Rich Paul, Russ, and Rob, was that Rob said, here's 3 deals. 1 year deal, 1+1 deal, 2-year deal. The money is the same in all 3. You pick which one you'd like to sign. There's no negotiating on the Lakers side. The Lakers desperately need LeBron James. So they're not all this talk of like, well, maybe he'll take less than the max is absurd. It's as absurd as thinking that Russ would sit at home the way James Harden didn't take max.
Well, why do you think he hasn't signed yet?
Because he wants to see how this is all going. He can play. The only reason I could fathom him signing it early before the season is if he's concerned about getting hurt. And honestly, the way the Lakers offered Kobe money when he was still rehabbing his knee or his ankle or his Achilles, I can't remember which one had gone out on him at that point. But like we dropped like a $25 million a year contract in Kobe's lap while he was rehabbing. They knew he wasn't coming in healthy. It wasn't about is this contract worth the on-court impact. That's not how the Lakers do business. And we can argue to the cows come home about whether that's intelligent, whether that's silly. It's just what they do. It's what they do now. They reward talent and they reward historical greatness more than they reward hard work and effort. It's and I'm not saying that Kobe doesn't work hard, that he didn't put forth great effort. I'm not saying that LeBron doesn't work hard, that he doesn't put forth great effort. But when it came to a player like THT versus Caruso, they chose to reward talent and potential as opposed to hard work and effort. And that's consistent.
And that's consistent. Kobe and LeBron, that nobody has worked harder than them in the gym. I really think that. Yeah.
They will earn whatever money they get, right? They will do their best to live up to that deal. Unlike, I think, somebody like Kyrie Irving, who thinks that he just should get paid, or Ben Simmons, who is going into arbitration for $20 million because it was hard. It was hard. So all of that is, that's not the question. I think that he's just trying, and I'm sure that they said, we won't trade you. Don't sign it. We're not trading you. We're not going to be the first team to trade LeBron James. We want you to pass Kareem in a Laker uniform. We want that number to be a Laker.
Unless he asks to be traded.
He won't. He's never been traded. He'll play it out.
We're talking about Bronny James as well. That dynamic is now starting to.
But that's why he might not sign for a while. If the team isn't competing well, they can't trade Russ, which those go hand in hand, right?
Yes.
And are both looking higher, more and more likely every day that passes without any kind of movement on any front whatsoever. All this talk of like, well, Lakers have this trade in the bag or this trade in the bag, and they're just waiting to see what happens with Kyrie. I don't buy a single word of that. I think that if there was a trade the Lakers could have made where they could keep one draft pick, that trade would have been made. There's no reason to wait, especially somebody as wacky as Kyrie Irving is in terms of his, I don't know if I feel like playing this week. There's a crab boil down in Louisiana that's supposed to be delicious, and I need 2 days to pack, so I'm going to need like a week off, and then of course I got to come home and clean up everything. So, well, let's talk like 10 days from now. I'm probably going to be back, but it might be 2 weeks. Who knows? Also, I'm not getting vaccinated.
I really think at this point in time, you're going to get a serious Kyrie Irving if you ever are, because the fact he's in the final year of his contract. Now, after that, if you sign into a long term, the Lakers or someone else, then all bets are off in my case. But at least this season, you're going to get a focused Kyrie Irving like you've never seen him before.
And I agree with that. I agree with that, and I think it's the number one reason why the Nets would roll the dice and keep him. Okay. I think that's the number one reason. I think that they feel that they've earned that Kyrie, and frankly, they have. There's an argument to be made that if any team should get that season out of Kyrie, it should be Brooklyn. And they don't want to take on Russ's $47 million. And we don't have enough draft picks to grease the wheels with other teams to make Russ to San Antonio, to flip for this guy, to get Kyrie. It's not going to happen. We just don't have the machine that needs to move for those kind of things to happen, requires draft assets to power it and grease the wheels. We got Jack. We got 2027 and 2029. Next summer, we can trade 2030. Most GMs won't have their jobs by the time those picks roll around. So I just have a hard time, and I've had a hard time with it for a while. That's why all these fantasy trades and dream scenarios and all that, about a month ago, I just started tuning it all out. I just kind of stopped paying attention because I was just like, it's not going to happen. Like, it's just not. We will be lucky to get Clarkson, Bogdanovich, or Mike Conley, or Malik Beasley. We'll be lucky to get that caliber player. I know you were like, if you're sending out 2 first-round draft picks and $47 million, you should get more back. We're not. It's not going to happen. It's just, Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier, who knows, is it going to be good or not for the next 4 years? That's the best Laker fans can hope for. And at that point, you really have to consider, and I have, which is why I'm more than content to let it ride out this season, is it really worth, A, retaining LeBron, B, losing those first-round draft picks if you think that you might not be able to retain LeBron? And so where's the logic? At some point, you have to prepare for a post-LeBron world. 2027, 2029 is in that wheelhouse. That's when you're, one way or another, whether he signs his extension or not. You're not doing yourself, it's not win now at the sake of never winning again. It's win now, but intelligently. And unfortunately for this season, the Lakers haven't been run very intelligently. They've thrown draft assets at guys they let walk for nothing twice. And so at some point you just got to go, it's like when your cousin's a junkie. You got to sit your cousin down and be like, we're putting you in, you got to have an intervention. Rob needs an intervention when it comes to his hey, listen, I really want to make this trade happen very quickly because I've got golf at 3. How about a first-round draft pick? That's how he's been throwing them away. Schroeder, we threw away a first-round draft pick. What do we have in response to it? Nothing. We don't have Schroeder. Didn't have a taxpayer, a traded player exception we could have used last year up till July. Same with Caruso. Didn't spend a first-round draft pick on Caruso, but we developed Caruso. We spent thousands of dollars on Caruso from his G League stint to when he decided to sign with Chicago over a difference of a couple mil. So the asset management of the Rob Pelinka, Magic Johnson, but mostly Rob Pelinka era has been garbage. We've let players walk for nothing, like Randall, Muscala, Brook Lopez, guys that you then hear people saying oh, Thomas Bryant, who we just got back for the veterans. So we're bringing you. Oh, we realized you might have had something you could contribute. Come on back. We could really, thank you for. I am a jambone. Yes. I don't understand. I don't understand the logic anymore. I don't think there is logic. I think that this is an agent's misguided perception of what a win now mentality looks like from the front office. And so I really do believe, and there will never be anything said about this until Jeannie has a tell-all book or Rob has a tell-all book. But I really do believe that Jeannie has said the 2027 first-round draft pick is yours to do with as you. One of them is off the table. She's not signing off on it going out the door. I would bet $5 to anybody who wants to take that bet right now that Jeannie said, listen, dude, training wheels are back on. You have not managed assets well at all. You're not fired, but you're going to be, you gotta show me you can negotiate something fairly and not just throw a draft pick at it or 2 to get it done because it's comfortable and easy and quick.
Want to go ahead and give a special shout out to Joe Soro, who is driving back home from Vegas as we speak. Hope the I-15 is
the I-15. Yeah,
on a weekend, on a Sunday. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. You have to leave at like 7 a.m. on Sunday, man, if you want to.
Exactly. Or earlier. I remember one time I was coming back when I was living in LA, coming back from Las Vegas to LA, and it took me 12 hours to get back.
Yeah, no, it's a brutal.
Yes.
It's a
that
brutal
kind of
stretch of
traffic.
road.
Yes.
It's a brutal stretch of road.
Yes. Going 5 miles an hour for 300 miles wasn't fun. $5 she cried about. $5 she cried about it before giving him an extension. Okay. All right. But I will say it is the Lakers fast break. It is myself, Gerald Glassford, along with Yami Swoot, or as we call him here, Jamie Sweet, right here at the Lakers fast break. I will say that with the growing concerns of the Lakers fans on if anything's going to be done as far as some type of moves that could be made, it's getting to me kind of nervous time as far as LeBron, as far as a trade, as far as what we could do to up this team. Jamie actually mentioned right now as far as his comments on what we can hope for. I know what I can hope for. I can hope for Sean Marks to be let go as the Nets GM and Laker Tom to be put in his place, because if you've seen at Laker Tom on Twitter, his latest trade offering out there, it favors the Lakers heavily.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Why would like we get all the best players and nobody else really gets much of anything except for paying off Russ.
Yes.
And I love how this thing is like, I tried to make this fair for everyone, but look, win. You didn't make
Laker Tom, we love you. God bless you, my friend.
I mean, that's not glass half full. That's just glass.
That's glass all the way full right there for you.
Overflowing with optimism. Sorry, I had to distract
no
my
problem.
daughter for a second.
Jeff Green says facts. Jamie Sweet.
Thank you, Jeff.
The Pelinka years have been terrible, much worse than the Mitch Kupchak years. I don't know. They both have their lows.
You know what? I will say that Mitch
never reacted. Timothy Mozgov?
Is that any worse? Is that any worse than throwing draft picks away for players you have no intention of retaining, evidently?
Yeah, with Dennis Schroeder. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, Schroeder, Muscala, Zubac.
Well, we were paying
Lopez, Randall. Losing Kuzma and KCP for a guy who we got a year out of and are like, get out of here, go. Those were guys who helped. I've never seen a team react so poorly to winning a championship. Since we've won the championship, we have done nothing but terrible decisions. Just absolute garbage decisions after we won. All like reacting as if like, remember when Harden, Durant, and Irving all signed in the Nets, and for like 2 years, Laker Tom was like, well, we got to worry about the Nets. And I never worried about the Nets. They could never put it together. They never played together. They never looked that dominant. They never really seemed to be the team to beat. And furthermore, they never even made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, you got to at least make it to the conference finals for me to be like a team to beat in any kind of world. Like, if you didn't make it to the conference finals, you had a good team. Yeah, you were good. You were good.
We'll go check out Laker Tom's latest trade. It's really good today at Laker Tom. If you're a Lakers fan,
on, come to Lakerholics.com. Let's debate it. I love to debate Tom.
Yes.
Gerald seems to think that I troll Laker Tom. That's not a troll. I'm not.
That's okay. Twitter's doing it for me and for you as well right now with that trade.
I'll bet. I mean, that last one that he put out there, I was like, bro.
Yeah.
And I like when I read it at first, I thought, oh, is this another one from like, fansided.heavy.somebody.org? Oh no, this is Tom's trade.
Like, but Laker Tom is always the optimist and definitely shows in that trade. So go check it out today at Laker Tom.
And he is, in his own way, dedicated to improving the Lakers. It comes from a good place. It comes from a very, pure place of like you're saying, optimism and goodwill. So you can't fault him for that. The logic is maybe a little faultable, but the guy's dreaming big, and we need big dreamers these days. So
we do. So speaking of dreaming big, and with the situation going on with the Lakers, what are the big dreams in regards to LeBron signing an extension? Do you think it's going to happen before training camp starts?
I'll be surprised. If there's no trade, which I don't think there will be, and I'll be surprised if he signs it before December. I don't think he's going to sign it before December.
I'm every day with every day, my positivity towards him signing extension gets less and less and less.
I would put it on the back burner and not worry about it until December, because December will tell us three things. Is this team able to hold itself accountable in the regular season more than last season's team was? And last season, we saw problems right out of the gate in camp. There were issues with the defense. There were issues with closing games. There were issues with players that we had hoped would step up and take a step forward in their development and who did not. And there were issues with health. There were a lot of issues coming out of camp. And so if that's the case this year, then you really start to have to think that this is going to be it for LeBron. He's not going to sign that extension. He'll look for another employer next summer, and the Lakers will let him. And they'll try to rebuild the roster with, nearly $100 million in cap space around AD, and try to.
But they'll have nothing to show for as far as LeBron letting him walk. Nothing.
They're not going to trade him. They will not. They've already said it. I don't see them walking that back. Just like I don't see them. They've spent all summer and most of last season saying we're not attaching 2 first-round draft picks to Russ to move it. We'll do 1. They're not going to all of a sudden walk that back for anybody. I mean, if it's a no-brainer deal like Tom's trade, where you get Buddy Hield, Kyrie Irving, Miles Turner, and a stealth bomber thrown in there for goodwill, then yes, of course they'll throw out 2 first-round draft picks, because that's just 100. Yeah, I mean that's Joe's right. That's the return. That's you have the and it's not like, and I've said this for a while too. $45 million, $47 million clearing of the books for a lot of teams isn't necessarily great. Who are you bringing back for that $40 million? There's not a $47 million player that's coming on the market anytime soon, unless you consider DeMar DeRozan a max-worthy contract. He'll be a free agent next summer, I believe. I think next summer he'll be an unrestricted free agent. Maybe he has a player option. Can't remember. Yeah. Giannis isn't leaving Milwaukee. Do you hold line and try to do 1-year deals and make a big play at Brown and think, all right, Jaylen Brown and Anthony Davis, is that enough to compete for an NBA title? I don't know that it is.
I don't know that it is either.
I don't know that it is, because the Celtics have an elite defense and decent role players around those guys.
And if Anthony Davis doesn't progress the way he did, like last year, if he doesn't progress like last year, if his season looks like last year, if it mirrors last year, I really think you got to go ahead and look to maybe move off of him as well. I know Joe said give him 1 more year. I'm going to give him 1 more year.
I'm going to give him 1 more year too. You have to, because he's under contract for 2. He's under contract for next season and the season after. Mm-hmm. So you got to give him this year with LeBron. You got to, whatever happens with Russ, if he plays 35 minutes a game, if he gets traded, if in some fantastical world where Jeannie Buss suddenly doesn't value money, and they ask him to not come to play, which I just don't see happening. I mean, she dealt with Kobe and Shaq. She was there when Kobe and Shaq wanted to kill each other.
Yeah,
and those guys still played. You could have, that was in the name of winning a championship. This team, if Russ is engaged, I think can at least compete better than they competed last season. The West is so stacked. I don't see us finishing better, even with Kyrie Irving.
Well, let's go into that right now. Let's go into that right now with the Western Conference before we head on out. I'm going to play a word association game.
Okay.
Are we better or are we not better than the team in the Western Conference I'm going to make as far as mentioned to you now? So that'll give everybody an idea on where we think the Lakers stand as of now, August the 7th, 2022 right now.
Sacramento like 12 times.
Well, let's see what happens. Okay, first off, remember the Lakers finished 11th in the Western Conference last year. I think that San Antonio Spurs, they are better than the San Antonio Spurs. Yes or no? I think they're going to tank. I think San Antonio Spurs are going to try to
yes,
tank.
On paper, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one team they're better than.
Okay. I take that back. A wholesale yes. Yes. They're better than San Antonio Spurs.
Okay, I'm going to give you Utah. Utah is trying hard to tank. No. If they get rid of Donovan Mitchell, I really think that they're a better team. But if Donovan Mitchell stays on the team, it's kind of 50-50 on that one.
I don't think anybody's going to give them the haul they want for Donovan Mitchell this summer. I don't see
Oklahoma City, I think, is starting to be really something special, but it's going to take another year to gel because you got so many kids on that roster. I still think that right now the Lakers, if with a healthy LeBron and AD, are better than the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes.
The Houston Rockets, they've got a lot of kids on their team as well. I think they're better than the Houston Rockets.
Yes.
Okay. Now we get into the fun stuff, my friend.
I picked out the teams we beat last. That's all the teams we beat last season.
Okay, so now comes the fun stuff. I'm going to start with the team you mentioned before, Sacramento. Sacramento is a team that has an edict from their owner to try and do what they can to at least get into the play-in. They've got a promising rookie, I think, in Keegan Murray, who could really do some good things for the team. They've got they got Sabonis on the team. They've got De'Aaron Fox still there, that if he comes back and starts playing the way he did a couple years ago, could be really promising. Your thoughts on the Sacramento Kings? I'm saying right now, if you've got a healthy LeBron AD, I think they're slightly better, but it's close. If all things considered, your thoughts? I think they're slightly better than the Sacramento Kings.
I would say they are better than the Sacramento Kings, and it's just because the Sacramento Kings, since the Maloofs, have always just managed to shoot themselves in the foot somehow. And is Mike Notebook Brown enough to turn that tide? I don't think he is.
We'll see.
I don't think he is.
Okay.
Alvin Gentry wasn't enough.
Alvin
Gentry's a solid coach. Respected coach. Knows his X's and O's.
Malone wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean,
he's done in Denver.
So. Yeah, Luke won't be good enough for a while. I don't think. I don't know. He's going to.
Well, I didn't say about Luke Walton. I said about Malone. Malone, you see what he's done.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. They shot themselves in the foot with Mike Malone. They had the perfect coach. Boogie loved him. They were winning. Cousins was injured. Coming into camp, the 1 year they fired him. By the time he got back, Malone was gone. Since then, they haven't had a shot at anything. So
I want to say right now, you'll think that you'll say yes that the Lakers are better than Sacramento.
Yes, I agree with you that it's closer than probably Laker fans want, but yes, they are better than the Sacramento Kings. But they're not
Portland.
Go ahead.
Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard supposedly is back healthy. They've got Jeremy Grant as far as playing as a guy that's going to help him out. Then you've got maybe some Anthony Simons you got there. You got some players on that roster that might be able to help you out. It might be able to do some good things. Your thoughts on Portland? Yes or no? Because I think it's also another close one. With a healthy year from Damian Lillard and a good supporting, cast, I think they have a little bit better supporting cast than what the Lakers have. I don't know. It's kind of close. I'm still going to give the edge to the Lakers, but it's not by much as well.
I give the edge to the Lakers based on experience, and if not just AD and LeBron are healthy, but like everybody. Like we need Kendrick Nunn to actually play. Kendrick Nunn who's yet to be cleared for 5-on-5. Almost a year removed from a bone bruise. I mean, I like Jeff's enthusiasm. I think that a healthy, motivated Damian Lillard. I think that Anthony Simmons really showed the league something last season. They kept Jurkic, right? They kept Jurkic.
Yes, Jurkic there on a nice big fat contract, and they overpaid.
And they've got decent guys. Josh Hart. I'm assuming that everybody's healthy the whole season, right? Like,
yes, we have to assume all these teams have
right.
to be.
So I mean, if you're gonna say like, well, Josh Hart gets hurt, then you got to come right back and say the same thing about AD. And let's put it this way: AD is far more important to the Lakers' competitive hopes than Josh Hart is to Portland. But I think that they could have the potential to be a better defensive team than they've shown in years past. Dame just signed his big extension. He's going to want to run through. He's going to want to show that he's worth that. He's going to want to show that he's not just destined to be traded to a contender for being a malcontent at some point. I think that they could be the team that knocks a team like the Lakers or even Memphis or Dallas down a couple of rungs from where they were last season. Because there's always a team that the year before, like New York, right? New York last season. Everybody's like, oh, New York's in the playoffs. New York is now like a top 6, top 7 team. And then they didn't even make it. Same boat as us last season, right? Like didn't even make it. No play-in, no nothing. Just completely fell apart. And so that always happens to some team or another. Unfortunately, for Laker fans, last season it was the Lakers with LeBron, with AD, with the veteran, two veterans, some might argue, roster that we assembled. The team I like to call the AARP of the NBA. I think Portland has that juice. Portland can have that juice that they knock a team that everybody just kind of assumes is going to be there, at least down into the play-in, or they themselves knock somebody who is just about to make the play-in or wants to make the play-in, like the Lakers again, out of that picture. Because if Dame's healthy and scoring 25, 28 points a game, and he's getting 15, 20 from Simmons and 15.
So yes or no? Do you think they're better right now?
I'm calling it a draw. Can I call it a draw?
All right.
I'm gonna say no. No, I think Portland on paper, and I think Portland could be better than the Lakers.
Okay. Fair enough indeed. Then also, as far as in the Western Conference, let's start with some playoff teams. Let's start with Denver, who, if they get everybody healthy back, i.e. Murray and, of course, Porter Jr., I think they've got a better roster right now than what the Lakers represent. I think the Nuggets are better than what the Lakers are at right now, unfortunately. So your thoughts on that?
100%. Nuggets are like a top 14 if they're healthy.
Okay, fair enough. Next on the list, what I have is New Orleans. New Orleans, which had a pretty good second half. They went in, they surprised in the first round. You're competing very, very, very well with the Phoenix Suns. Your thoughts on New Orleans, who gets Zion back for hopefully a full year, although I'm kind of doubting that. But your thoughts on New Orleans?
Again, if we're assuming that everybody's going to play the whole year, and that means we got to assume the same for Zion. I think the Pelicans I think the Pelicans are better than the Lakers.
I am going to have to agree with that right now because, again, the Lakers supporting cast is nowhere near what the supporting cast is for New Orleans or many of these other top teams. So I think that's of great concern. Right now it is a very top-heavy team for the Lakers, and I think right now I would give the slight edge to New Orleans just because of the fact I think that they have a better, well-rounded roster than what the Lakers throw out there right now at this point.
And Zion's excited to go back.
Yeah.
That's nobody who's excited to come back to the Laker team right now.
Yeah.
Nobody.
That's true. Next on the list I have
nobody.
Next on the list I have a team that made the conference finals but did lose a key contributor in Jalen Brunson in the Dallas Mavericks. I think with Luka Doncic in a healthy full season, hopefully he comes into the season in shape. I know that was the issue at the beginning of last season, but if he comes in shape, motivated after a good, strong playoff run, I think even with the loss of Jalen Brunson, they are still at this point in time going to be picked ahead of the Lakers at this point.
Yeah, I think you have to because, again, we're assuming that Tim Hardaway Jr. plays and a couple of the other guys, I can't remember. There's another guy who was hurt towards the end of the season there that's a major contributor. I'm forgetting who it was, though.
You're talking about Spencer Dinwiddie. You're talking about
Dinwiddie. Yes, thank you, Spencer Dinwiddie, and also, I mean, listen, losing Brunson is big.
Christian Wood might help some of that, but
yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to help some of that. Dinwiddie is going to help some of that, but I mean, Jalen Brunson is a player. I mean, again, contract here, coming to a New York team. We'll see. He's very comfortable. He's got a lot of friends in New York, so there might not be the same level. He might not be able to measure up year one to that deal. Mm-hmm. We're just going to have to assume that he will based on his past performance. which is why I can't project like great things for THTs, especially if you watch his Drew League game.
Well, again, that's so far we've got.
So no, Dallas is better than the Lakers.
Dallas is better than the Lakers. We
Yeah.
picked New Orleans better than the Lakers on both of us. You've picked Portland slightly ahead of the Lakers.
I want to call it a draw. It's like
it to me. It's very close. Yeah, Sacramento and Portland are very close to the Lakers.
Again, I feel like that team's going to come out of the gates, excited. The franchise will be excited. The fan base will be excited. Damian Lillard's back. We built, we got Simmons going. We got Hart. We got some guys that
I've got another one for you. Let's start with the guy who was traded to a team that really is looking to do good things during the regular season, and that is Rudy Gobert moving over to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota Timberwolves, I think, with Rudy Gobert, if they have the health all season long, I really think that they're going to be a 50-win team. I don't expect a whole lot out of them in the playoffs, maybe a second-round exit, I think, at this point in time, simply because of the fact that their big man lineup may work against them against a smaller man lineup, a 5-out team in the playoffs. But I will say that the Lakers are not better as far as the regular season is concerned. I don't think they will have a better regular season record with a fully healthy Minnesota Timberwolves. You're thinking the other way.
I'm thinking the other way. I'm thinking that I think they traded away too much for Gobert. That they gave up some rotation players, and Gobert's not going to bring the type of scoring that opened up Karl-Anthony Towns' game.
But you've got Anthony Edwards on the upswing. If Anthony Edwards continues to go ahead and
but the same thing, they didn't bring in guys that open up the game of Anthony Edwards even. I mean, unless Gobert is just setting screens on the perimeter and then rolling it hard to like get an offensive rebound, and he's not complaining one iota about paint touches or post touches or his role in the offense or anything like that, which it was good for a few times to see. He made that known in Utah that he thought he deserved a bigger share of the offensive load for some mystical reason. I still can't fathom because he's not a very good offensive player. He's a great defender. And Minnesota, like many teams, could use a great defender. Problem is that they already got a center. So now are you really relegating Karl-Anthony Towns to the 4 spot and he's just going to, not post up? Are you really going to have Gobert? I don't see how it's going to work. Somebody mentioned the thing, like, imagine like Gobert setting screens for Karl-Anthony Towns. And at first I was like, oh, that could be something. That's like, but that's going to be pretty easy to blow up. Like, that's not going to be a fast developing play. And you can't just run a guy over. Like, they're going to have to get to the basket somehow. And Karl-Anthony Towns isn't going to cross a dude over and get around. It's just not going to work.
Well, that's why I'm so high on Edwards. I really think Edwards is due for a breakout season. He looks so good in the playoffs.
He takes the same step forward that Wiggins took last season, where he makes the All-Star team, helps lead a team in the playoffs, and is like taking on the best defender. Is the best defender on their team, taking on the best offensive player on the other team every night, and he succeeds at all of that. Then the Timberwolves. That's, to me, that's just a lot. That's not growth that I have seen him capable of yet. He's still too young, I feel like, to take on that whole assignment. Still developing.
So I say yes, and you say
I say no. For me, they're like, it's like Minnesota and Portland are right there, neck and neck. I'm going to say that the Lakers are better than Minnesota.
Okay, I'm going to say Minnesota regular season is better than the Lakers, but then again, in a playoff matchup, if they would get together, I think that the 5-out type formula would work against them simply because Gobert is just, the defense just is not conducive in the playoffs to what they need to do. But I will say that so far we've got several teams right now in play as far as against the Lakers. Another team I want to go ahead and talk about was a team that really surprised last season with some really, really good young potential and some really great breakout players. That's Memphis Grizzlies with John Morant. Your thoughts on Memphis? I still think that even though they didn't add too much during the offseason, they didn't really need to. Maybe a little tweak here and there, but They didn't do enough, I think, to go ahead and stay at the number 2 position in Western Conference, but I still think that overall, I think over the regular season, that they still have a better record than the Los Angeles Lakers.
I mean, I will say this: they won't be surprising anyone like they did last season, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to have a little bit. They're going to be getting a little bit more attention paid to them. They're going to have more spotlight on them. The expectations are going to be higher. It'll be interesting to see how a young team that likes to play with a chip on their shoulder deals with that. Mm-hmm. Because they're not going to be the chip on the shoulder team. They're going to be the team that's expected to do something good now.
Yeah.
So that could be and I think that's what kind of bit New York last season was that they're like they believe their own press, right? It's the worst thing you can do as an athlete is believe anything nice. Don't read the nice things written about you. Throw the garbage. Find somebody who doesn't like you. Just listen to Skip Bayless every day. Yeah. He doesn't like anybody. And you get. I mean, but regardless of whether they underperform slightly or not, they're still better than the Lakers.
Okay.
And I think that they might be a team that slips a little bit, gets down to 5, 6, 7. But I still expect them to be middle of the pack in the Western Conference.
So far we've talked about
health being not really a concern, right?
Yes.
We're assuming everybody plays injury-free the entire season.
We've talked to Rockets, we've talked to Thunder, talked to Blazers, Kings, Spurs, Pelicans, Timberwolves, Nuggets, and I think we've talked about the Nuggets. I said the Nuggets are better than the Lakers right now.
Top 4 team if healthy.
Yes, we've talked the Jazz, talked the Mavericks, we've talked the Grizzlies. Well, we talked to Jazz before that. Right. Because with Donovan Mitchell, if they have Donovan Mitchell, you think they're right around what the Lakers will be. Yep. I think that they're going to try and move on him just because of the fact that they're going to try and do a tank and see what they can get out of it. So I really think that they're going to do that. I think that the Utah will try very hard to end up below the Lakers, no matter how bad or good the Lakers season will be. I think that also as well, you've got 3 more teams left in the Western Conference we've got to talk about. The Phoenix Suns, who was at the top of the Western Conference, 64 wins last year. They did re-sign DeAndre Ayton. They did lose a little bit here and there. And as far as another year of Chris Paul, your thoughts? I still think that at this point in time, they are better than the Los Angeles Lakers and what they could throw out.
Definitely better than the Los Angeles Lakers. They're another team I expect to slip a little bit in the regular season. I think
I'm not expecting 64 wins.
I'm not expecting 64 wins. For some reason they've got a disgruntled Jay Crowder maybe now. It sounds like maybe a little bit. It's hard to tell. Twitter's not a very good way to ascertain someone's emotional state, but if Twitter's to be taken seriously, it shouldn't be. Then maybe they've got a little bit of a chemistry issue there. It depends on how excited Ayton is and how motivated he is now that he got his big payday. If I'm them, I think you've got to sort of treat Chris Paul like the Lakers treated Rajon Rondo there. We won it all, which was work your way into shape, man. We don't need you until after the calendar year turns over. We really don't. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. But what we do is need you to be good to go in the playoffs and have a high level of energy. Because I think that we've seen that Devin Booker hasn't figured out how to win by himself yet. With all the tools that he had around him, he still can't. If Chris Paul's being taken out of the game by the defensive plan or injury-wise, it's a problem for that team. So I don't expect them to win 64 games. They are definitely better than the Lakers.
2 last teams we're going to talk about, and one is a great conversation. I know it's going to be a favorite amongst prognosticators come this fall, and that's the Los Angeles Clippers, the team down the hall, the team down the street.
Not for much longer.
Not for much longer, but I will say that the Los Angeles Clippers, if you look at the fact that Steve Ballmer is spending money, he is not caring about the cap. He is actually trying to build a team, and I think the depth that I think he's learned from the fact that this team has been injury plagued for so many years now that's held them back. I think that he is building, or at least the team is building, a roster of individuals there that I think most of them are still in their prime or right just outside their prime, but enough to where they can still be a major contributor to the team. That I really think 1 through 12, they're one of the best teams in the NBA, unfortunately. And it hurts me very much to say that as a Lakers fan. But I definitely think that they're better right now than what the Lakers stand.
100%. No doubt.
Yeah,
even if Leonard and George go down again, they're still better.
Yeah.
And that's what's sad.
Yeah. The only position I see that they're hurting is losing Hartenstein. So backup 5 is probably needed. But even if that's the case,
they extended Zubac, so they're all in on Zubac, and I think he's going to reward them with a career year.
But Zubac, if he goes out of the game, you could still put Morris at the 5. You could split up. You could make a small. Options. Yeah, they got options. So, yeah,
Hartenstein was nice. It was a luxury they could afford to lose, especially for the price that he signed at. Good on him for going out and getting some money.
Yeah,
but we're not. We're not. These teams are the teams we're, barring catastrophic injury to those teams and zero injuries to us, we got no shot at being better than the Clippers. We got no shot at being better than Phoenix. We got no shot at. I think I know the next team you're going to mention, but let's go ahead and do it.
It is the world champion Golden State Warriors.
We got no shot.
Even though they did lose Porter and also as well, they lost Peyton. 2 really good contributors to their team. They did get back JaMychal Green and Dante DiVincenzo, but they're okay. It's not quite the plus minus. I still think that they lost a little bit more than they added, but you're counting on the growth of Kuminga, of Wiseman, and Moody, those 3 players that showed some signs in the past. You're going to have to see some growth. If you see some growth from them, it could be another good season for Golden State.
Well, the other thing that they're probably counting on a little bit, and I think this is wise, is that Klay Thompson got through the whole season injury-free, right?
Yeah.
He's not rehabbing an injury this summer. He's working on the game, getting himself ready to play. So I think Klay's going to have a much higher impact than he did last season. His impact last season was good. He was a good player last year. He was not the Klay Thompson that everybody remembered prior to.
So we both think they're better than Lakers.
Oh, it's not even a question. Yeah, no.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not even a question.
So after all that,
they have so much more depth, the same number of experience, and a team that likes one another.
So let's recap.
None of those things.
So let's recap. Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
Yes, they're better than Lakers at this point in time. Memphis Grizzlies. Yes. Golden State, yes. Dallas, we said yes, correct?
Yep.
Denver, we said yes, correct? Minnesota, we said yes. I did. You said?
I said yes. Oh, no, yes. I said no.
Okay, so you said, okay, so I've got 6, you've got 5 teams. New Orleans, we both said yes. Yes or no?
Yes,
New Orleans?
Yes, no, you're right.
Okay, so that's 7 teams for me, 6 teams for you.
Yep.
The Clippers, yes.
Yes.
Right there for you. That's 8 teams for me, 7 teams for you. And then it came to where Kings, Blazers, those 2 we put right at even with the Lakers right now. So that's 7 to 8 teams right now that we think are better than the Lakers, even incrementally or by a larger margin. That's not a good sign for the Lakers, and that's probably one of the main reasons why LeBron has not signed an extension.
And also why they haven't thrown away draft picks for no good, for players that aren't going to push that. That's not going to push that. Oh, what player could we get that pushes us out of the play-in round? None.
Good point.
There's none. Kyrie Irving can score. He can't defend. What's he going to do? He's just going to take shots away from LeBron and AD. You don't need Kyrie Irving. You need defenders, and you need guys who know how to play alongside superstars.
Yeah. Terrell, I just want to say Terrell Davis thinks we might be the worst team in the West. I don't think we're the worst team in the West. I think
for the money that they'll spend on the roster and the level of expectation, yes.
Well, that's okay. That's
but
different.
In terms of record, we'll probably be 11th or 12th again. I'm hoping for 8, 9, 10. But I won't be blown away when we're not. And Joe's right. If Westbrook is on the team, they won't be better than a lot of these teams. And unless Coach Ham has some sort of
if you can get, well, let's simplify it this way. If you can get LeBron and AD to play at a all-star, not just an all-star, if you could get them to be an all NBA players for
Yep.
one last year for both of them together,
Yep.
where do you think that they could go? I think they could sneak into 7th, 8th if you get all NBA teams.
I mean, they're still playing, but yeah, top of the play-in heap. I don't see any way the Lakers crack the top 6 and avoid the play-in. I just don't see it. If everyone in the association is healthy, as we're assuming for this debate, and so or this exercise rather, so that's why I don't think the Lakers are going to push all their chips in.
No,
because they're better off. And I've said this point a lot of time. Darvin Ham didn't come into this situation thinking like, oh, well, Westbrook won't be on the team. He came into this situation talking about how he wanted Westbrook on the team, and everybody can say like whatever they want to. That's what he's saying, right? So I take people at their word. Somebody says they're going to be at my house at 8:00 and they get there at 8:15. I'm going to be a little annoyed because you told me you're going to be here at 8. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, Terrell, but you know it is terrible. And we definitely might be one of the worst teams in the West if injuries hit us. You know, if AD plays 30, 40 games again, LeBron gets hurt.
It could get ugly real fast.
It'll get real ugly real fast, and I won't be surprised. I could see LeBron, if LeBron's hurt, he can't demand a trade, right? Because nobody's going to trade for that much money for an injured LeBron. So if he's healthy and AD goes down and we're like sitting at like, 3 or 4 games under 500 come December, I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing LeBron asking for a trade. It just seems to go so against his established DNA.
Well, last year though, he looked like on his face he came close to doing it.
Yeah, but I don't think he'd ever experienced a season like that.
Well, where he experiences it again, if he experiences it,
that's what I mean. That's why I'm wrestling with the idea of him changing his inner his inner reasoning, and like because athletes by almost necessity have to be stubborn. The more successful you are, the more you've proven somebody wrong somewhere. There's very few athletes who come in just regarded as the best, and it's going to be great, and the path forward for you will be paved with gold, and you shall win many things. Like usually when that athlete is like touted like that, they underperform vastly and are like, people are like, oh yeah, that guy's a bust, because they piled all these lofty expectations on the guy or girl, and it's hard to live up to those. It's easier to, like what John Morant and the Grizzlies did. It's easier to like surprise people, to come out of the dark and like, take a shiv and like get somebody in the gut when they're not expecting it. That's easier than living up to the world thinking you're amazing. LeBron is maybe the exception. And I would argue that even he bucked trends, because by the time he got to Miami, people were like, he's a bust. He can't win in the playoffs. He can't win. He's going to have to get traded. He's going to have to be, play second fiddle to somebody else for him to ever win a championship. He went out and proved people wrong, and that's to his credit. So the Lakers have, if anything, the one thing I feel like the Lakers have going for them, regardless of whoever's on the team, is that the team is coming in angry. That they're not coming in like last year's team where it's like training camp. That's when I work my way into shape. Preseason, that's when I, play like maybe 5 minutes in the last game or two and take a couple of jumpers, see how the jumper's looking. If this team approaches the beginning of this season the way last year's team did, this will be over before the year turns. It'll be over before the year turns, and it's going to be uglier than last season. Because at least we have professionals on the roster.
Not even the Calm app is helping LeBron anymore.
Not
if we have another season like last year.
No, it's gonna get ugly real fast if it's gonna get ugly. So, the number one thing that's got to break our way is health. If AD goes down, it kind of doesn't matter. We're gonna lose our best defender. We're gonna lose our best post scorer, in terms of like back to the basket play, and that'll be that. It'll be over fast. And the Lakers should just let the money expire, let LeBron walk, have nearly $100 million in resources next summer to, build around Davis till AD. Like, hey, we're still all on you. When you're healthy, you're a top 5, top 10, maybe top 20 now player. And you're the kind of guy we want to build around. We want you on the team. Maybe not for max next time around, although he didn't really sign for the max this time around, I don't think. Or he didn't go through all the machinations people thought he might to like squeeze max money out over time.
Yeah.
He just signed for the max at the year that he was, for 3 years, with a player option, I think, for 4. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. The team just doesn't, because of the way the front office has managed both the asset management and the talent. Yes, Rob. Yes, 100%.
That's something both Jamie and I has said, that he's going to be much easier to trade at the trade deadline.
It's the best chance you have to get something of value too, because at that point, some team or another is going to have a high salaried roster and underperforming. And so the way you balance that scale is you get a contract like Westbrook and you send out 3 or 4 players, or 2 or 3 or whatever. And the chances are the Lakers might get away with just attaching just 1, maybe 0 draft assets at that point.
Rob, there is a chance that he could play better if he does stay on the team, but how much better, I think, would only be incrementally. And we see by just the sheer statistics of how bad he was as far as overall with turnovers.
Take everything as it was if he just
efficiency, turnovers. Yeah. He was actually on the worst end of it as far as in the top 10, as far as those are categories you do not want to be part of, especially when it comes to turnovers. With the defensive rating at 113.6, that's one of the worst in the NBA and the worst of his career. So he needs to, even if he moves up incrementally, it's still not a great season by any stretch of the imagination. And he's still at 29%, can't hit threes. So that's still a problem out there in the modern NBA.
Yep.
But like you said, Rob, as you're going ahead and alluding to, as it gets close to the trade deadline and these teams start seeing where they're at, let's say it's like an Indiana, which had hopes last year for the playoffs, then they started to fade, then they started to realize what was going on with their team. They made moves like the Sabonis trade.
Right.
If you have other teams like Indiana like that this year, that teams that had high hopes, going ahead and making the playoffs, and their seasons just didn't break right, and they're actually no chance to go ahead and compete, they will be more inclined to go ahead and trade for a guy like Westbrook, who the $47 million would come off the cap, and the Lakers could get something more substantial return. I think that is a better possibility the closer it is to the February trade deadline.
Something else to remember in terms of that scenario is that up to that, let's say it happens in February, the Lakers are on the hook for all of the salary between camp and February. So now you're not trading really, you're trading for the $47 million cap release, but your buyout cost is significantly reduced. So for small market teams especially, that's a huge thing. Just because somebody's a billionaire doesn't mean they don't value money. In fact, it's probably the opposite, because they're billionaires and they understand how money works. You don't throw money away for no reason.
But he does become more attractive the closer it is to the trade deadline.
Midnight at the 5 minutes before the trading deadline is the most valuable Russell Westbrook will be. And that is when I expect him to be traded, not 1 second before. The soonest that they can, the closest they can get to putting the paperwork into the league, it's like, okay, it's good. I mean, really, that last day. It could happen anytime that last day. But I don't expect it to happen in December. I don't expect it to happen before training camp. Don't expect it to happen in January. It's going to happen in February. I don't remember when the trade deadline is. I want to say it's like 18th or 19th, something like that.
Something like that. But as we get closer to it, I'll make sure.
And it'll finally be a trading day deadline show where Tom will get his wish. You will see an excited and happy Laker Tom finally, because it's been like 3 years in a row of these shows where you watch the show, and I always watch it live because
and it gets angrier and angrier.
Yeah. He's like, well, Minnesota just traded for that guy that I was 100% certain the Lakers were going to trade for, and now they traded for that guy who this other guy was also 100% certain. How can he be 100% certain 2 different trades are going to happen? It's not. Doesn't make sense. You got to pick one. You got to back one thing.
Everybody in the chat, great going today. It is. What's up with that? Is he the real deal, or have we seen his ceiling already?
Yeah, what's ceiling?
with
He's,
THT, with
I know
THT,
he's slow. He can't jump. He's not big. He's not strong,
and he can't shoot.
And he can't shoot. His ceiling was when he had a good training camp 3 years ago or whenever that was after the playoffs.
He is still 21. Hopefully, he can get a better shape. He can become a little bit better on the defensive end. We were thinking.
He's not going to get bigger.
We were thinking that he could be a good defender with those long arms that he has, but unfortunately, it has not materialized on both ends of the floor. He's a good penetrator. He can go ahead and do a lot more. He gets to the rim, but
he doesn't have an above the rim game,
and he doesn't.
He gets to the rim, but his shots are all start from the floor. Or
he did finish better. One of the criticisms of his previous year was that he was not a good finisher. He did finish a little bit better, but he still has a ways to go.
It's not elite. It's not game changing, and it doesn't make up for his defense and lack of outside shooting. He can't. True. That's the problem. Is that with THT, with LeBron, with Russ, and frankly with AD, those guys all want to score in the paint. They're all best at scoring in the paint. I'm not like the hugest advocate of the three-point revolution, but I am aware that having shooters who can make three-point shots, unlike all the guys the Lakers have brought in over the last few years, between McLemore, Ellington twice, we had Reggie Bullock,
Carmelo
was pretty good last year, but then again, he's super old and can't do much else.
He faded though; his three-point shot faded in the second half.
As did Reeves. I think that he was just he passed somebody on the scoring list and passed somebody else on like the three-pointers made list or something. And I think that was his goal for the season, to be honest. And he was like, I'm good now. Frankly, I'm good. We're not going anywhere. We're not going to win. But yeah, THT is not the real deal. Again, maybe, who knows? Maybe on a different team with like elite shooting that allows him to like get to the rim with a little bit more steam and an open floor and with some of the better defenders pulled out of the paint. Maybe he, takes, hits a couple more shots a game, gets closer to averaging 15 points than 10. But I've always thought THT topped out as a decent role player. I never saw all-star. I never saw starter. I never saw, major contributor on a championship.
Tom and I were a little bit higher on him. I even had some positive.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I could understand why after he came in Houston. Frank Vogel did a lot to get THT that contract that he got. Yeah. He played him against perfect matchups defensively in the Houston series, where it looked like, suddenly it looked like he could stop guys and hit shots when he needed him to. And then THT did himself a favor by having a just absolutely great summer league and training camp after that. And that was where it ended.
That was where it ended indeed. But still great to have everyone here, part of the Lakers Fast Break. If you have thoughts on where
great thoughts and questions, everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys have been great in the chat. I got a question for everybody out in the chat. Go ahead in the coming days, if you're listening to this and watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, go to our YouTube channel, and go ahead and let us know which teams are better than the Lakers, or where do you think the Lakers right now, as of right now, where they stand in the Western Conference. Not talking overall in the NBA, talking the Western Conference, where they stand. We'd love to hear your thoughts right here at the Lakers Fast Break on YouTube, or hit me up, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com or at Lakers Fast Break. Right over there with Yami.
Or leave it on Laker Tom's Twitter.
Yeah, or Laker Tom's Twitter, indeed. We'll see his latest trade right there for you at Laker Tom on Twitter. Yami Swoot, or Jamie Sweet, as we like to call him here. You can go ahead and check out his latest article on LeBron James. 5 things, the waiting is the hardest part, at the 5 things slot right there for you at Lakerholics.com.
It's going to be more waiting. There's 2 things that are going to be on the table for the Lakers all season long until somebody picks them up: LeBron's extension and Russell Westbrook.
Waiting indeed, but I'll tell you what,
Yami, they're not coming off the table.
Okay, Yami, there you go, Yami,
it's gonna be like the Jell-O mold cake at the party. It's on the table. Everybody's looking at it.
Is there a stapler in it, like from The Office?
Then I might grab that stapler out of the cake.
There you go. But it is Yami Swoot, aka Jamie Sweet. You got to go ahead and check him out today at Lakerholics.com. Please go ahead if you have not already. Please subscribe today right there on YouTube. We truly appreciate all the subscribers that we've gotten over the past few days, and we need so many more. So if you go ahead and give us that subscribe so you get the latest notifications on when we go live right here at the Lakers Fast Break. I'm looking to do more episodes this week. I've got 500 around the corner. I've got a special guest coming on for that show. He's going to make a return right here in the coming days, hopefully, if everything works out right. But also, as well, we've got another group chat on the way, more news, hopefully, from the world of the Lakers, and hopefully better trade offerings as far as articles. And I'm looking at you, Hoops Hype. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Got to do better
Listen,
than that.
Listen, we can't fault internet journalists too much. And thank you, Blue Magic.
Thank you very much.
They're filling time. They're filling time. There's nothing going on right now, and so they can't shut their site down. They gotta drop something. You would just like for it to be a little more thought out than a fan trade.
Well, okay. Hoops Hype is all the way that way.
I know.
And then it's like American politics. It's like all the way that way on one side on Hoops Hype, and then all the way on the other side for Laker Tom. Can we just have something that works out, that's reasonable in the middle as far as trade rumors are concerned?
That's you and I, Gerald. Really cool. That's you and I. We're in the middle.
All right. Fair enough. I'm still got to go ahead and talk to Kenneth Stone about what kind of bet we got to lay down with Joe Soro if actually the Lakers do win the World Championship with Russell Westbrook on the roster. Got to still think it's some type of. He said just Joe. That's Joe right there for you, but. We'll see, indeed. Got still thinking about it. Next time we get Joe on the air, we'll go ahead and make sure that we have something good planned for him, in case the Lakers do win the World Championship with Russell.
Well, I'm searching out. I mean, listen, Tom swore up and down that, first he was like that Russ would. The timeline is always hilarious to me. Like Russ was going to get traded in season. I was like, there's no way he's getting traded in season. Didn't happen. Oh, I can't believe it. Then he was like, once our season ended, he's like, well, he might get traded before the playoffs ended. I was like, he's not getting traded. Nobody's trading for Russell Westbrook right now. Oh, wow, I can't believe it. And then it was like, he's going to get traded on the first day of free agency. No, he's not. He's not going to get – or no, I'm sorry. He's going to get traded. It's going to be a draft day
Kyrie Irving coming any day now.
Right. Draft day trade. I guarantee it. No, that's not happening. It's not going to happen.
You know what? He is so much of an optimist. You got to go ahead and make sure.
And people always think I don't like Laker Tom. It's not true. I adore Laker Tom. I adore his optimism. I cannot share in his optimism because my brain prevents me.
And your glasses are not purple and gold like his.
No, or and my glasses chock full of reality. It's not optimism. It's reality. I mean, the Lakers got garbage. Nobody wants our garbage, so
hopefully that will change, and hopefully the prospectus as far as the prospective trades out there, the offerings, the rumors, hopefully they get a little bit better indeed. Hopefully they will get a bit better. But it is Yamo Swoot. It is Jamie Sweet. Want to go ahead and check out his latest article today at Lakerholics.com. Well, once again, everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. It's been truly a pleasure having you on the air right here at the Lakers Fast Break. So for Jamie Sweet, looking to go ahead and get everybody back in, of course. There's Jamie Sweet. Oh, his beautiful daughter right there for you. Oh, that's awesome indeed. But it is Jamie Sweet. Go ahead and check out what he's doing today at Lakerholics.com. But for Jamie Sweet, this is Gerald Glassford, hoping to get Joe Soro, Laker Tom, maybe Sean Grice, and the whole gang back here as much as we can over the course of the coming weeks and months right here